A mer-like completed artifact creature who is able to meld flesh and metal in glorious harmony. During the Time Spiral Crisis he was transported through a time rift from a possible future to Dominaria. His appearance seems to hint that in that future, Dominaria will be conquered by new Phyrexia. Welcome. MTG Commander Spotlight, Brudiclad Telchor Engineer. Brudiclad is a 6-to-cast legendary artifact creature with power and toughness of 4. His first ability is creature token you control have haste. On his second ability, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create 2/1 mer. Then choose a token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. What is our strategy? Our strategy, first ramping fast, so that we can cast our commander early. And second, focusing to flood the board with tokens, and changing them to your best creature token on your board. So that we will smashing our opponents to victory. Decklist composition. Here we organize our deck into composition that compels us the right cards to our deck. Okay, let's walk through to the decklist. Mana ramps? First we have Everflowing Chalice. It is a 0-to-cost artifact that has an ability of multi-kicker. That when multi-kicked, put a charge counter on it. Then tap, add 1 colorless mana for each charge counter on it. Next we have Iron Mer and Silver Mer. This 2-artifact creature Mer provides red mana and blue mana respectively. And they cost 2 colorless mana. Next we have Mind Stone. When tapped, it provides colorless mana. And pay 1 colorless mana, tap, sacrifice it and draw a card. Then we have Prismatic Lens. Tap and add 1 colorless mana. Then you can pay 1 colorless mana, tap, add 1 mana of any color. Next we have Is It Cluestone and Is It Locket. When tapped, you can produce a red or blue mana. Then when sacrificed, draw a card. Next we have Palladian Mer, Hedron Archive, Worn Power Stone and Sizes Ring. When tapped, they give us 2 colorless mana. As for Hedron Archive, when sacrificed, we draw a card. Next we have Firemind Vessel. Enters the battlefield tapped. Then tap, add 2 mana of different colors. Let's proceed to draw engines. We have Unexpected Windfall, Seize the Spoils, and Pirate's Pillage. That when you discard a card you draw a card. Then create a treasure token. Pirate's Prize is similar card but you don't need to discard a card. Next we have Thirst for Knowledge, draws you 3 cards, then if you don't discard an artifact card, discard 2 cards. Next is Artificer's Epiphany, draws you 2 cards, then if don't control an artifact, you discard a card. Next we have Behold the Multiverse and Deliberate. They have a similar ability when it cast, scry first then draws you cards. Next is Reconnaissance Mission, has an ability of whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. This card will synergize well on our strategy by flooding our board with token and draws us many cards. While Curiosity Crafter is a creature card that do the same thing as Reconnaissance but on tokens only. And he gives us no maximum hand size. Next we have single target removals. We have Hornswaggle that can counter target creature spell. Next is Depths of Desire that can return target creature card to its owner's hand, Smashing Success that can destroy an artifact or land, and Improvise Weaponry that can deal 2 damage to any target. The common on these cards that they can create treasure tokens that could be transformed into creatures by our commander's ability. Next is Galvanic Blast, deals 2 damage to any target, and has an ability of Metalcraft. It will deals 4 damage to any target instead if we have 3 or more artifacts. Next is Stoic Rebuttal, Metalcraft. This spell cost 1 less to cast if we have 3 or more artifacts. Counter target spell. Next we have a situational card, and that is It Charm. Choose 1. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2, or it deals 2 damage to target creature, or draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. Next we have Callous Dismissal, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And Amass 1, create a 0/0 zombie army and then put a +1/+1 on it. Next we have Abrade, choose 1, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player, or destroy target artifact. Next is Confirm Suspicious, counter target spell and then investigate 3 times. Investigate is we are creating a clue token that can draw us cards by paying 2 and sacrificing it. Or we will transform it into a creature through to our commander's ability. Let's proceed to board wipes. First, we have Perplexing Test, has 2 abilities and we choose 1, return all tokens to their owner's hand or return all non-token creatures to their owner's hand. In this case, we will always choose the second option. Next, we have Gaiad's Belligerence, has an ability of deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures. Whenever a creature dealt damage this way dies this turn, Populate. Populate is a mechanic that can create a token copy of creature token you control. With this spell we can flood the board easily. Next is Chain Reaction, it deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. This will be a mass board wipe scenario. Next we have the Standalones. Sharding Sphinx is a 6 to cast Sphinx artifact creature. Flying, and whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to player, you may create a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token. This will be massive when you have many artifact creature tokens, you will creating a Thopter army. Next, we have Thopter Spy Network, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control an artifact. Create a 1/1 Thopter artifact creature token with flying. And then whenever one or more artifact creature you control deals damage to a player, draw a card. Making more Thopter tokens and gaining more cards. Mer Battlesphere is a 7 to cast artifact creature with an ability of, whenever Mer Battlesphere enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless Mer artifact creature tokens. And there is one more ability. Whenever Mer Battlesphere attacks, you may tap X untapped Mer you control. If you do, Mer Battlesphere gets +X+0 until end of turn and deals X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. Next, we have Filigree Attendant is a 4 to cast artifact creature homunculus. And has an ability of Filigree's power is equal to the number artifacts you control. He might be cute but he is one of our beaters on this deck. Let's proceed to enhancers. First, we have Chief Foundry, has the ability of other artifact creatures you control gets +1/+1. Imagine if you have many artifact creatures on the board. That would be lethal. Next, is the same card as Chief Foundry but a beater. We have Master of Autherium. Master of Autherium gives +1/+1 to other artifact creatures you control, and a beater ability of power and toughness will be based on equal to the artifacts you control. What a massive beater we got here. Next is Thopter Engineer. When it enters, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature with flying, and then artifact creatures you control have haste. Next is Evasion and Protection for our commander or creatures, and that card is Winged Boots. It gives flying and ward 4. Ward is a lesser type of hexproof when targeted of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter it unless that opponent pays a cost depending to the ward cost. Lazotep Plating gives you and permanents you control gain hexproof. Plus it amasses for 1. Next, we have Mizium Skin, it gives hexproof to a target creature and pumps its toughness by +1. But we can overload it by paying 1 colorless and blue mana. Changing the target to all. By having these cards we can protect our board state from board wipes or anything else. Next, we have Golvian Pick that gives you +1/+1 with an equip cost of 1, and Prying Blade gives you +1/+0 with an equip cost of 2. But the similar abilities of these cards are, they gave us treasure tokens that can be used as mana, or transforming into creatures with the help of our commander's ability. Proceeding to our enablers. First, we have Saheeli, Sublime Artificer. A 3 to cost planeswalker with an ability of whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. And -2 her, target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Our main flood the board card. Next, we have Efficient Construction with an ability of whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter token with flying. More flood the board cards. But wait, there's more. We have Mirrodin Besieged, as it enters the battlefield choose Mirren or Phyrexian. If you choose Mirren, whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Mer token. If you choose Phyrexian, at the beginning of your end step, draw a card, then discard a card. Then if there are 15 or more artifacts in your graveyard, target opponent loses the game. Flood the board or not. Choose. Next, we have Genesis Chamber. Whenever a non-token creature token enters the battlefield, if Genesis Chamber is untapped, create a 1/1 colorless Mer token. The more tokens the more smashing to our opponents. We have Mirror Works. Whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, pay 2. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that artifact. Creating a bunch of artifacts that could help us to ramp, generate more tokens, or creating more beaters. Next is by casting instant or sorceries, we are producing artifacts, and these are metallurgic summonings and trail of evidence. Metallurgic summonings has an ability of whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create an XX colorless construct artifact creature token, where X is that spell's mana value. By paying 3 colorless or 2 blue mana, exile metallurgic summonings, return all instant and sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Activate only if you control 6 or more artifacts. Next, we have Trail of Evidence that whenever we cast instant or sorcery spell, investigate. With these cards, we are creating an army of tokens that would benefit well with Brudiclad. Next is reducing the cost of our artifacts, and these cards are Autherium Sculptor and Foundry Inspector. They reduce our artifact spells by 1, and by combining them both, we are reducing it by 2. The next cards are cards that can copy our creatures or opponents' creatures and making them into tokens. We have Sahili's Artistry, Cackling Counterpart with a flashback ability, and Mercurial Pretender with an additional ability of pay 4 return this creature to its owner's hand. The exciting part is synergy with these cards, making Master of Autherium or Filigree Attendant as a token. Why? With Brudiclad's ability, we can transform our treasure, clue, and artifact creature token into an army of Master of Autherium or Filigree Attendant and smashing it to our opponents' faces. Next, we have creatures that can produce tokens. We have Whirler Rogue. Whenever it enters the battlefield, create a 2/1/1 colorless Thopter tokens with flying and tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Next is Loyal Apprentice with an ability of Lieutenant. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. That token gains haste until end of turn. Next, we have more token generators. First, we have Brass's Bounty. For each land you control, create a treasure token. Exploding with treasure tokens and transforming them into creatures or casting something spectacular. Next is Tamio's Journal. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate. Second ability, tap, sacrifice 3 clues, search a card in your library, and put it in your hand. We are almost done, but first, what is our land composition? Let's proceed. We have 15 islands and 13 mountains. Next is Commander Tower, Darksteel Citadel, Evolving Wilds, Great Furnace, Highland Lake, Is It Boilerworks, Is It Gilgate, Silver Bluff Bridge, and Terramorphic Expanse. The total cost of this deck is $31.92. I would like to thank you all for watching. Please give a like. Press the subscribe button for more updates and share this video to your friends who loves MTG. Once again, thank you.